Lecture 2, in the previous lecture, we talked about how you, in order to be successful, you had to find whatever your comparative advantage is, specialize in it, and then trade for whatever else you need, right? Do something really well, and then because you're doing something that you're focusing on, that you have a comparative advantage in, that will hopefully enable you to be able to go out and earn more income than you otherwise would, right? If you weren't specializing. So, how do you specialize? That's what this unit focuses on. And really, it all comes down to that factor of production that we talked about way, way back, and that is human capital, right? Do things to make yourself valuable to others, and you have to actually learn and develop skills to do that. And some of them are skills that take a long time to learn. Some of them are attitudes that, if you're lucky, you were brought up in such a way that these were taught to, these attitudes were kind of emphasized as important to you. And sadly, skills can be learned, relatively quickly, but they have to be honed. Attitudes, they're one of the things that, once you have them, but it takes a while for a lot of people to get these. I'm going to go ahead and test chat here. I see someone in here. Just want to make sure that my stream chat was working, because I've had it not work in the past. All right, we're going to go ahead and go on. So, let's remind ourselves what human capital is. Human capital is just like normal capital, except it's up here, right? Capital is what we use to create other goods and services, right? It's man-made products that we use to create other goods and services. So human capital is ideas, knowledge, skills, anything that's right up here within a human that enables us to create more. So we look at something like making cars, right? One of the reasons why cars are made so fast is not just because of the capital, right? All that machinery, but also human capital, right? We had this brilliant idea that we would come along and have this thing called a assembly line, where we would put the parts of the car on in a certain order all the time. That way it became that people could specialize in doing a certain part, right? Some person would specialize in putting the doors on, some people would specialize in putting the tires on, and so on, yeah? And that enabled us to make way more cars. And the same way that the machines enabled us to make way more cars, right? So that is human capital. So you need to develop human capital yourself. So how do you do this? Well, one of the first ways is to, go deep, right? Don't be a jack of all trades. That can be useful, right? But when it comes to being able to serve other people's needs, if you only know how to do a little bit of everything, you're really only going to know how to do what everyone else already knows how to do. So if you want to be able to serve others, if you want to be able to really have a comparative advantage, you have to specialize, right? So go deep. Okay, there's this great video here that we have time to watch, so we're going to go ahead and watch it. And it's about what the internet has done to our brains, and what you should be wary of as well, because it's going to become really important on the next slide. So let's go ahead and give this a watch.
Jeffrey Brown, welcome to Art Beat at PBS NewsHour, and joining me today is Nicholas Carr, author of The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains. This began with a provocative article a couple of years ago titled, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" Now, I wonder, did you expect the kind of backlash that provoked?
I didn't. When I wrote that article, I really saw it as a personal essay about my own experience in using the internet and how it was influencing the way I personally think. So I was quite surprised about the controversy the article set off.
But for you, this started in a very personal way, right? What you saw happening to your own thinking?
Yeah, it was back in about 2007, and I had been on, like a lot of people, had been using the internet a lot for about 10 years by then. And obviously,
They're talking about using the internet as if it were a substance.
But I noticed that I was losing my ability to concentrate, and I particularly noticed it when I'd sit down to, for instance, to read a book, something that used to come completely naturally to me. And I'd get a couple of paragraphs in or a couple of pages in, and my mind wanted to behave the way it behaves when I'm online, jumping from page to page, checking email, clicking on links, doing Googling. And so that inspired me to start
His brain was changing.
about how the technologies we use in our day-to-day lives, like the net, can influence actually the way that we think.
So you went to look at the research on neuroscience, and a lot of the book takes us through that. What was the key thing you found in terms of the impact of the internet? One thing you talk about is this idea called plasticity.
Right. And I mean, one of the curious things about my own experience was that the time I spent online seemed to be influencing the way I think, even when I wasn't in front of a computer, when I was sitting down.
Oh, he's picking up some habits.
And what I found is the recent discoveries about what brain scientists call neuroplasticity really helped kind of unravel that conundrum. Because what brain scientists have discovered over the last couple of decades is that even as adults, our brains are very malleable, very plastic, and they're constantly adapting down at the cellular level to what we use our minds for, to our environment, and so forth. And so what we can, I think, theorize is that as we train our brains to take in information very, very quickly, in a very interrupted, distracted way, little bits of it coming at us all the time, the way we experience it online, that strengthens those parts of our brain that are good at multitasking and good at shifting our focus very, very quickly. On the other hand, we're not exercising those parts of our brain that are involved in deep concentration, deep attentiveness, things like contemplation and reflection. And so what happens in the brain is that, what we use gets stronger, the actual cellular connections, and what we don't use weaken.
And
All right. So that's the big idea here, is what we call neuroplasticity, right? Your brain is going to pick up new habits as you practice those habits. Whatever you're doing, that's what you're going to be good at, right? So if you're doing something, make sure that you're doing something that, again, is serving others, right? Don't be a jack of all trades. One of the great examples of this is if you're going to know something, know a lot about it. Because the truth is, as we move into this era where everything is just a click away, if you just know a little bit about something, no one's going to need you because they're going to be able to Google and know exactly what you know, right? So be really good at what you do, okay? Know a lot about what you're into, yeah? And again, we have this idea of, neuroplasticity, right? You guys that do sports, you know that practice matters a lot. And there's this old adage that I think is demonstrably false, right? There's this old saying that practice makes perfect. And we have to edit that statement because practice does not make perfect. You guys know more than anyone if you're an athlete that simply going to the practices does not make you a good athlete. It's going to practice in trying, right? Going to practice in doing the best you can in order to have the best results, right? It's you going in and actually trying to do the best that you can. That way when you go on the field, on the mat, on the course, whatever, you're running the best you can, you're shooting the best you can, you're dribbling the best you can, all that stuff. Welcome, Patine. So it's not that practice makes perfect, it's that perfect practice makes perfect. If you want to be able to do things effectively, if you want to specialize, it's going to take more than just showing up. Putting in the time is not going to do it, right? Putting in the time will earn you a paycheck, right? But if you want that paycheck to grow, you're going to have to make sure that you're getting better, getting more knowledgeable, because as time goes on, right, going back to this idea of the shallows, if you want to be able to serve somebody and serve a demand that they have, you're going to have to be able to do it in such a way that they find value out of it, right? If you're only able to do it as much as they can, they're just going to do it themselves, yeah? So make sure you're practicing perfectly, yeah? Practice deliberately. I myself found this out not from my time in sports, but actually playing a video game called League of Legends, right? League of Legends, I was always a silver player. And then when I started trying, I got up to gold, right? But the idea was that I started trying. I became mindful, right? When I died in the beginning, I thought, why did I die? I was like, it's because I was all the way alone in that part of the map, and there was no teammates around me, and I didn't notice that there were no enemy players on the minimap, so they were all there, obviously. Oh, man. So then I would learn from that, right? Each time I'd have a failure, I would learn from it, right? And that's practice, right? Practice is going in deliberately and trying to do it perfect. That way you can get as close to perfect when you're actually performing, okay? Same thing applies to the work that you're going to do whenever you're specializing, right? If you don't try to do it perfectly, you're not going to get any better at it, ever. So, another thing that you can do in order to develop up here, we have practicing, right? Being very knowledgeable what you do. But so how do you practice some things? Because some things aren't really practiced, like, playing video games, like I said in my example, or doing sports. Some things are practiced. Some muscles are, what am I looking for here? Worked out by reading, right? And I don't think your brain's a muscle, technically. Someone get a scientist in here. But if you want this to grow, right, what's in between your ears, you got to read, right? There's this great rhyme that leaders are readers, right? If you want to be a leader, you got to be a reader. You got to have knowledge of all these different ideas and know them well, right? There's this, did I include that stat in here somewhere? Oh, I didn't. I think it takes an average of, over a year to write a book. So whenever you're reading a book, if it takes you, a few weeks, you're getting a year's worth of ideas in just a few weeks, right? Talk about leverage, right? Talk about using your time to the best of your ability. Yeah. The more you read, the more knowledge you're going to be able to leverage in whatever problem you face, right? Matter of fact, that's why when you're in high school, and then if you go on to college, why you take classes that are what we call, electives, or when you're in college, you'll take classes that aren't required, for your particular major, but you still have to take them to graduate in general. It's because the more knowledge you have, the more problems you can solve. Yeah. If you only know about your one worldview, you only have one perspective, you essentially have blinders up. Okay, and if you're just trying to go at one thing with just one perspective, you're never going to get there, right? So one of the beautiful things about being able to learn more about some other things that you traditionally wouldn't know if you were just studying what you're interested in, you're going to be able to see a different perspective, and that's going to help you to solve more problems. It's also going to enable you to be more empathetic to other worldviews that are going to let you see their perspectives and help you to solve your own problems, as well as, hey, maybe be able to help them solve their problems as well. One thing you can do as well to just kind of ease the anxiety in your mental is to focus on what's important, okay? Not what's urgent. And there's a big difference between the two. Urgent is all about time. Important is all about how fulfilling it is, right? So when you're thinking about what you want to do in your life, you don't want to do things that aren't important, okay? Wow. Guess I'm never playing video games again. No, right? We know that there are some things that we do. If I didn't play games, would I be as productive? Would I be able to do the important things? But what I really want to focus here is on the important and urgent things, right? I think one of the best examples of this is, something in your house breaking, right? Let's say that, you know that this thing needs fixed, yeah, and it's not urgent right now. Like, let's say that there's an outlet that you've been plugging things into, and it's been sparking every now and then. So it's not starting a fire. It's not urgent. It's important, right? And it's not urgent. Well, actually, since it's not urgent and it's not starting a fire, it's probably not that important either, okay? So you've kind of put it off, right? You kind of put it off, and it's important in the back of your mind, but it's not urgent, okay? So you haven't fixed it until one day, fire catches, and now it's important and urgent, yeah? A lot of the times, guys, we waste our time in quadrant 1 because we never take care of the things when they're not urgent but important, right? We don't focus our time in quadrant 2 when we really should, yeah? If any of you are procrastinators like me, the schoolwork is important, right? But it's not urgent. Due date is due date. Am I right? Okay. But we know that if we do it here, we don't end up getting to the night before and then it becomes here, right? So the first thing that we need to do is make sure that we're on the important half, right? This top half here. We want to make sure we're doing important things, okay? But we want to make sure that we're taking care of things when they're not urgent. Because you'll find, guys, that the more time you spend in quadrant 2, the less you're going to be anxious in trying to figure out what the heck to do when you're here in quadrant 1, when you didn't do the things when they could have been handled in quadrant 2. You may also find that the more time you spend in quadrant 2, the less time you have to spend in quadrant 1, right? So you're still doing important things, but you're not freaking out about it, yeah? So when we talk about being hired, one of the things that you can do to make sure that you have an easier time finding a job is to be entrepreneurial, okay? Think like a person that owns the business, that runs the business, right? What would your boss want you to do? Yeah. When you finish your task at work, is it time for you to sit down in a chair, have a drink, and get on your phone? You could do that, right? You absolutely could. However, is that going to get you a raise, right? Is that going to be something that gets you ahead? Is that going to be something that shows your boss, hey, look, aren't you glad that you're paying me by the hour to sit on this chair? No, think entrepreneurially, right? Maybe you go and clean a grill that needs cleaning. Maybe you go and take out the trash, right? You fill that time with productive activities so that you are essentially being an asset, right? You can either be a liability or you can be an asset. Yeah, you can be something that is a risk to the company, right? Or you can be something that the company has value from. Yeah. So if you want to be able to impress your boss and be able to move up, just doing the work and getting by, that's not going to be enough, right? Because someone else is going to be doing that. Yeah. And if no one else is doing it, then your boss is probably going to fire you guys. Hire some new folks. Yeah. Get those people that do want to do the good work. Okay. So be entrepreneurial, right? Because entrepreneurs, they're going to be doing things that put themselves ahead, right? And of course, they put themselves ahead by serving others, yeah. Because in markets, that's the only way that you can get ahead, right? You give yourself some gains in your own wealth by giving others gains in their wealth, yeah. So how do you do this? Well, you can make sure that you're saving more and avoiding debt. We'll actually get to that in a later section on this part. We'll have a whole section where we talk about budgeting. We'll have a whole section where we talk about debt. But in any case, when you're at work, maybe try to find new ways of doing things, right? Now, I wouldn't press it so hard on your boss, but try to be thinking of new ways that you could do things. If you notice some inefficiency, share it. Don't just keep doing the inefficient thing. You'll also notice that entrepreneurs, there's a whole misguided notion that bosses just go and they sit in their office and they do nothing. They collect their bigger paycheck than yours, and then they go home, right? They have a bigger paycheck for a reason. A lot of times it's because the work they're doing is very stressful, and the decisions they make are very important. They also earn more money because they work a lot more than normal. Yeah, if getting a business off the ground is going to require many, many hours, right? You hear countless. If you ask entrepreneurs, you'll hear countless stories about how them working 80-hour work weeks, right? Just trying to do the, borrowing a hip slang word here, right? Trying to do that hustle and be able to, get their business off the ground so they can turn their, day job into their, side job, and then turn their night job that they've been doing as an entrepreneur into their main job, right? So you have to put in a lot of work, right? It's a lot of effort. Yeah. So going back to that entrepreneurial thinking, while you're still working for somebody, put in the work, right? Be willing to do things for them. Yeah. And you'll see yourself being able to get compensated for it. Yeah. So when we're looking at who gets hired, well, all the things that we just talked about, right? Be entrepreneurial. Okay. Be serious about your work, right? Be on task. Yeah. When people come up to you, if you're in a service type of job, don't just go, yeah, welcome, glad to have you, right? Wear a smile. Be all about what you're doing. Okay. Be there, show excellence, right? Care about what you're doing, right? Go back to that idea of practice makes perfect. You better make sure that it's good practice and not bad practice. Okay. Be honest and reliable. Yeah. While we look at honesty and it's like, in the all sorts of religions, it's a good thing to be honest. Well, it's also good for a strategy for yourself, right? People know that they can rely on you. Your word is good, yeah. And honestly, for some people, your word can be your most valuable asset that belongs to you. Okay, being able to show up on time. Oh my goodness, if I've heard. I hate when I hear from students, why do I need to be on time for class? I'm only 30 minutes. I'm only it's not 30 minutes. That's. At that point, I just kick them out. I'm only, 2 minutes late. It's not a big deal. Tell your boss that. They're not going to be too happy, right? There's that old military adage that, what is it? Early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable. Live by that mantra, and you'll be not disrespecting others. Because ultimately, that's what it comes down to. If you're not on time, especially for something like a meeting, you're holding all of them up, right? You are wasting their time. Yeah. So, something that's helped me to care a lot about being on time is that know that, there's other people waiting for you, right? You're kind of mistreating them if you end up being late. Okay. Respect authority, respect what's in your scope. Yeah. I was a CNA my senior year of high school, which essentially meant that, I helped out the elderly and, helped them to walk around, get around, move them, clean them, wiped butts. I learned a lot. Anyways, you have to make sure that you're respecting the scope of your abilities, right? Respect what, is in your job, right? Don't do anything that you don't know how to do. You can ask to learn it, right? But respect, what those above you are meant to do. Respect what training you have, right? Because the last thing I want to do is, nurse isn't here, I guess I'll just put your IV in. No way. No way. And of course, have a personality that people want to be around, right? We look at job interviews as a way for them to get to know us, right? For the job, the people that are hiring for the job to get to know who we are, to see if we qualify for it. But also, use it as a time to get to know them. Yeah. Are these people you could work with? Right? Are you gonna cause problems working with these people? Okay, and of course they're looking at the same thing for you, right? They're okay. Is this person going to be causing problems? Okay, are they going to try to tell others, how to do things in a mean, condescending way? Right? Are they a leader that is a leader as a servant? They try to help people, show them how to do things, be a leader in their actions instead of just their words. Or are they a person that's trying to be a leading from behind, just telling you, being a taskmaster, you do this, you do this, you do this. Oh my gosh, causing drama. Don't do any of that, right? Be a person that people want to work with, right? Be happy, be boisterous. Yeah, you don't have to like everyone, yeah, but you do have to be able to work with everyone, right? And when some people work the same job their entire life, right, moving through the same career, you could be working with some people for a while, yeah. And if they're going to be a constant in your life, might as well get along with them, yeah. Because arguing all the time, that ain't for the faint of heart, okay? So, that's all we have for number 2. We're going to get into the real meat of it once we get on to the third section, talking about budgeting. But for now, that's it. Thank you